Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome back to another PorscheCooled Podcast. Today's a bit of a special one. This is the first of a new idea that we're doing. I guess it's a new idea. It's not something that hasn't been done before, but I thought it'd be interesting to get you guys, the listeners, all you guys who've been supporting the podcast, all the new listeners who are starting to support the podcast, to come onto the podcast for this episode, which will go up on probably on a Tuesday. Our usual episode goes up on a Friday. So this episode will go up on a Tuesday. And we're going to call it simply, what are we calling it? See, I don't have Steve here to ask him. We're going to call it Porsche Owner Stories. For this one that I'm doing today with Nick, Steve's not going to be in it. Steve and I will probably just do the one on Friday together. I think it's just easier with the way that we record this because I'm recording it through Zoom. Nick, who's on today, is from the UK, so he is local, but not local enough that we can do it in person. So it's doing it by Zoom. Once again, I always say excuse the sound quality if there's any issues. And because I've got Nick on the other line today, hopefully his microphone and his setup is okay. But we have tested it, and it sounded pretty good the other day when we started with it. So this PorscheCooled podcast is basically Porsche Owner Stories. This is going to be number one. This is the first one. I'm not going to tell you what car Nick has. I probably have mentioned it before, and I have mentioned Nick before. You probably have heard of his name mentioned in previous podcasts, but I'm going to let Nick tell me all about his car. But this podcast, this episode of the podcast is basically telling everyone's different story, I guess. We're all united by the common Porsche passion, and we all have different stories to tell. Sure, some of those stories are similar, but it's how we got there and how we ended up owning a 911 and what we love about the brand and what we love about the generation that we own and what else we're looking at. So it's all about Porsche ownership, and it's direct from Porsche owners. So that's about it. That's the intro. As you know, this is a PorscheCooled podcast. The PorscheCooled podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, Google. They're the main three, but it's available everywhere else. And I keep saying if you don't like those three to listen to it on, you just do a search and it comes up pretty much everywhere. I want to say thanks for the support. I want to say thank you to, and I've got to check my phone because I always forget. I want to make a thank you to our other new PorscheCooled member on Patreon. We have a Patreon page where we ask for a small amount each month to become a PorscheCooled member. I can't speak this evening, sorry. To become a PorscheCooled member, and that will help us keep going. And initially, it's going to help us just upgrade microphones and buy equipment, get Steve some new equipment as well. So that's the idea about it. We had a second member join Patreon, which was Justin. So thank you, Justin. And Justin has also shown interest in being on one of these owner stories. So Justin will be talking about his Porsche in the coming weeks. There's a couple of other people that have asked me about being on these owner stories, so I will get in contact with you. I know a couple I have already, and I had another person ask me again today what it was all about. So hopefully that intro has sort of given you an idea of what it's all about. If you come on the owner stories, there's a general guide here. It's not, I guess the owner stories, we don't want it like a Q&A. It's more about conversation. It's just chatting with fellow Porsche owners, and this time it's online. This is just what would happen if you went to your Porsche Cars and Coffee, or you went to a Cars and Coffee, or you went to a Porsche meet, or you met someone on the street who just happened to have a Porsche that parked near you. It's all about our passion. It's all about talking about what we love. So that's it. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to get Zoom connected. I'm going to get Nick on the other line, and we're going to start the conversation, and we're going to start the very first Porsche owner stories on the PorscheCooled podcast. Give me a second, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back, and we have a special guest today. Like I said, this is the first of the Porsche owner stories. This is number one, and Nick is number one. Hello, Nick.
Good evening, Michael.
How are you?
Not too bad. It's a little bit hot, but apart from that,
it is hot.
Very nice.
To everyone out there, UK is actually like a heat wave today. It's I don't know how hot it was. What was it, 26 degrees or something, which is pretty hot here in sunny England.
It was about 29 up here.
Was it?
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, very pleasant. Very pleasant.
It was very nice in Canary Wharf, I have to say. I went for a bit of a run today, and it was actually it was a good thing to do. Okay, so this is, like I said, this is Porsche Owner Stories. Nick is from the UK. He is obviously not in the same area that I'm in, but he's close by today because he's actually, I think he's in Cambridge. Is that correct, Nick?
Yeah, on the road working.
So he's on the road working in Cambridge, and you had a good drive there as well, didn't you, in your 911, you were saying?
Yeah, I came up late on Saturday night. It's a good time to sort of do the drive, and roads were quiet, and you can really... There's a couple of good stretches on the way up to Cambridge, which you can really, not stupidly, but just feel the car at its limit. It's good.
Yeah, nice twisty roads.
Yeah, and a couple of just good roundabouts, things like that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so before we get into that, we probably should just tell everyone, because they don't know already, or I don't think they know, about your car. So it just happens Nick does have Nick, I'll let you explain what car you have.
I have a black 997.1 Carrera 4S.
And you've owned that for how long? I forget how long it was. A couple of years, is it?
It's coming up a couple of years now, yeah.
Couple of years. Nick's 997 is actually pretty special, actually. Tell everyone, because it's quite... And I say you shouldn't get hung up on options in the last episode. I actually made that point. And I also left a comment on Mr. Nick Murray's YouTube today because I thought it was quite interesting how he bought that Cabriolet, which was pretty beat up, but it's a 993, so you can't get too hung up on how it looks. But Nick's car is pretty special because it is very well optioned. So what are the options again, Nick, that your car has? Just a few of them?
Well, I was going to say that there's no point mentioning them all, but the key ones for me were the Porsche Sport Exhaust System, and the full leather. I know that you're going to love this. The full leather interior, Michael.
The full leather. Yeah, that's the one thing that I have to say. And like I said in the introduction, you guys have probably heard me mention about Nick before, because Nick is the guy that was kind enough to come here to Canary Wharf, and we went for a Porsche drive to Goodwood a couple of weeks back, well, quite a few weeks back now. So that's the Nick that's been referred to in the previous episodes. Sorry, Nick, I know we have a bit of a structure here, and I'm probably jumping around because I like to jump around. It's
quite all right. Quite all right.
That's what we're doing. So that's who Nick is. So
that was a good day out, wasn't it?
It was good. It was really, really good. So let's go back, because everyone has their first memories of a 911. And for me, I have to say my first memories of the 911 are a Carrera. I think it must have been a late 80s Carrera in a dealership looking through when you're young. And it was a oak green one. I remember seeing that. And then I remember there was a friend of mine whose sister, had a 964 Carrera. I think it was a 92 964 Carrera. And they're the two that kind of stick in my mind. So what was the first time you saw a 911 and you thought, I've got to have one of those? Was it when you were a kid, or was it when you were older, or...
It's interesting, this one. It's the late 80s. It wasn't actually a proper Porsche in the sense of you seeing a Porsche. It was in a magazine. There was a review of the 964 Turbo, it must have been at the time. It was bright red. And, I mean, I think I'd seen Porsches before that, but you must remember back in the 80s, the UK, I mean, Porsches were quite rare. Quite rare, even if you had a lot of money.
Were they?
They were a very, certainly where I lived, it was a very discerning purchase. And actually probably seen as a bit flashy, I think, as well, maybe. And certainly, you didn't see many at all. So my first thing that sort of got my interest going was seeing this beautiful red turbo, a glowing review, in this, what was Car Magazine. I think my mum had bought it for me. I was in my mid-teens,
right.
And I was at that critical point in the 80s when, of course, in London, Porsche 911s were just the symbol of success.
Yes, and the same in Australia. Yeah.
I was part of the cliche. I just wanted part of the action. And, I said, I'm going to have one of those. And all my friends fell about laughing, yeah.
Who's laughing now, Nick? Who's laughing now?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is the 80s 911 is iconic, isn't it? It's the one you kind of remember. And I guess, and I also remember a boss of mine, his wife had one. His wife had the 90s one, a 964, I think it was. But the 80s ones being so iconic with the whale tail and the shape and the sound and also, the exclusivity, like you said, they were rarer than what they are. Yeah, they're rarer than what they are today, I think. I think they were much rarer then.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can't remember what the sales numbers in the UK were at the time, but they were a lot lower than they are now.
Yes.
And, that said, 911s are still, outside of London, a pretty discerning purchase, I think.
Okay, so when you went to buy your 911 in the UK, when you said, okay, that's it, I'm going to go buy a 911, did you do a lot of research?
Yeah, I now, as you may know, I mean, I lived in Germany for a while in my working adult life, and I saw, obviously out there we saw a lot. I mean, they were the car of choice for a certain type of people in Germany. So I mean, I built up that knowledge by living in Germany, and again, just aspiration. I mean, where we lived near Dusseldorf, and these things were double parked on the main street there. That's how many though. I mean, it was just the family car of choice.
Well, the 911 in Europe, they just drive them summer and winter as well, don't they?
Yeah.
It doesn't it doesn't get locked away for winter storage. It's just driven.
No, the winter wheels go on and away you go. It's just another day in the office. It's fantastic. So I vowed I was going to get one. So yeah, and to cut a long story short, a house sale fell through, and I just got so sick of this real estate market in the UK. I said, that's it. I'm sick of looking at the money. I'm going to do it. And as James also would say, I pulled the trigger.
Yeah. And I think it happens really quickly. I mean, for me, there was a long build up, and I did let ones go that I should have bought, like the 996 GT3, which is probably the worst decision I ever made, not buying that one when it was very cheap. And then I know when I started looking, and I was, I think like you, I started looking for a 997. Well, I looked at 996 turbos. I was looking at 996 turbos, and then I thought, no, I wanted the 997. And obviously, I was looking for a Carrera S, and then I, settled on the Carrera, and no regrets there at all, as you know. And I, the research you do, and I'm sure you did the same research with forums and reviews and YouTube videos and all the such. Is that how you did your research for the buying?
Yeah.
Or was it through friends who own 911s? Was it friends?
A lot of friends. I'd had friends who owned Porsches, not 911s, but who'd owned Porsches. It took a lot of wide advice. YouTube is actually very, very good. I mean, it was a toss-up between the 996 and the 997, I guess. That's where the budget was sort of aimed at. And, it's really, really odd. A friend of mine who, he's going to kill himself laughing because he'll be listening to this later, but he, when we were in Germany, he owned a Boxster. Right. He brought it back to the UK when he came back. And then one day we went out to a Porsche dealership to get some touch-up paint for us. And to cut a long story short, we bought one of the first Caymans that came into the UK on the back of this.
All right.
So he ended up with two cars. So he's always been my partner in crime in terms of going and looking at these things. So we went out to a place in London to buy these things. Good place. I'm not going to name it.
Yes.
And it was a recce. I said, Mike, let's take a day off work. Let's go and have a chap's day out and go and look at them. We know what the budget is. We're serious buyers, but let's get the process going. I want to have one by the summer or something. It was the high level guidance or something.
Yes.
And I bought the first one that was put in front of me.
But you didn't, from my memory, what you told me, did you get a pre-purchase inspection?
No.
You just bought it off the bat. And it was a reason, I can't remember, your miles were not super low, were they? That was quite a driven car, wasn't it?
It was
or not?
Low 70s.
70s, right.
Low 70,000 miles. So that's not bad for a, that age car, really.
No, that's pretty normal mileage. And I did say in the last podcast that with Steve that I read somewhere, like with the 996, that IMS issues really, if you're looking for a 996, for example, and it's got over 50,000 miles, the chances of the IMS being an issue are very slim, apparently. So the well-driven cars are actually better with that IMS issue that all new Porsche 997 and potential Porsche 997 and 996 owners think about, because there's always something that's out there that you have to clear your mind for and be okay buying the car.
Yeah, I mean, Steve put it quite succinctly last week. You're buying the owner at the end of the day. And
correct.
The car I bought had been through that dealership 3 times. So they knew the car.
That's a good point, actually. I mean, 3 times, and I know Autohouse Hamilton in Sydney, they have the same thing where people will buy it and sell it back. The person who bought it will sell it back to them. And I think that's good if you can find a car like that. You know what I mean? If you can find a car that's been sold and serviced by that dealer, it's been sold a few times, they know the car, and they'll stick by it. They'll support you if anything goes wrong, which I think they did. You said they did with you as well. So that's
yeah. I mean, there was a few minor, it's boring stuff, but it was all sorted, and it was very much, they were very embarrassed. I mean, they're a good place to buy them, and I remember the guy who sold it to me said, look, there's 2 types of first-time buyers that come along. And he says they either sell it within a month or 6 months, or they are on crystal meth for the rest of their life.
Yeah, once you buy one, that's it. It's all over.
Yeah, it's all over. You will live in a cardboard box to keep
and I think
it.
I think our problem is we're in the group where it's all over.
Yeah, I told my son that's it. You know where you sit on the food chain on this.
There's always going to be one in the driveway. That's for sure. 1 or 2, hopefully more than 1. That's the idea.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that later in the interview.
So going back to that first turbo you saw in the magazine, were you ever tempted to go and buy an air-cooled, or you didn't even think about it? You wanted a more modern 911?
No, I mean, have you've talked at length about the prices here. I mean, the problem is, I don't think you can even justify us as an investment anymore now. They are up. I mean, how can they get any higher? I mean, they are. You've got to pinch yourself. They are what they are, and that's fine. But you got to. Yeah, you know where I'm going with it.
But you know that Nick Murray just said that he bought that 993 Cabriolet manual for $20,000 US. It's.
I mean, is that a video that's? Has he published that video?
Yes, he has. Yes, it has.
I haven't had a chance to watch it.
But you should watch it. But he said he paid $20,000 US. So I always say the US are lucky in that, because their prices are obviously much, much lower.
So I've only seen the photos on Instagram. So is this Baltic Blue 964 convertible?
Yeah, it's well worn.
Yeah,
it's well worn. But how you're looking for a 92, how you like the idea of a 928.
Yeah, has he got one going now?
He's selling his. You could put him in an offer.
I'll talk to him. But only if the fuse box is leather covered, of course.
Yeah, that's right. It has to be leather covered. He mentioned
that's
something.
That's the deal breaker.
He mentioned a low price in the video. You should watch the video. He said he's going to sell it for a certain price, and it seemed very low to me.
I'll talk to him.
Okay, so 997.
Yeah.
So when you first picked the car up, I mean, I know for myself, it's a pretty special time when you first get in there and you first drive away from the dealer. My situation was similar to yours, where it happened pretty quickly. I looked at the car on a Saturday. I went with Steve. I went to the car on a Saturday. I wasn't keen on it because I didn't like the wheels. It had 20-inch tech-up wheels on it, and that turned me off. But it had very low kilometers, and it was in immaculate condition, etc. So I eventually, but I did a PPI, etc. It took me I think during the next week it took me, and I think the next weekend I had the car. So it was basically like a week before it happened. But it was a pretty reasonable, quick decision. And I think that's the best ones to make. I think, if you think about it too much and you sort of get bogged down in looking at ads and going through so many different versions, you just have to come to a conclusion. If you see one and it's good enough, a 911 is a 911, and there's not really in my mind, any bad 911 out there. Especially if you're getting a manual, if you're getting a good manual. I don't think you can really go that wrong. You're always going to spend money on it, Nick. Right? It's a 15-year-old car. So
I mean, someone said to me, it's $30,000. You can pay for it however you want, But the answer is it's $30,000.
Yeah.
So you can think you're getting a cheap Porsche, but you're not really, because you'll end up having to do this, that, and the other to it. So
yes.
I mean, my high-level sort of guidance was, it's got to be manual. I actually wanted Carrera 2 to start with, but, but I wasn't too hung up on that. I viewed the whole thing, really, whatever I got, it was sort of going to be the training one. It was going to be the one I was just going to learn how to own a Porsche. And, I took very much a 2-3 year view of it. I thought, it'll either work out and we'll flog it, or I'll probably want to trade it up, having learned how to own it and drive it, and got my insurance built up and things like that.
Yeah, well, let's get onto that actually, because the Carrera 4, yours is a Carrera 4S. So obviously the Carrera 4S is very appealing because of the wide body. It's got the extra power because it's the S. I mean, when I drove in your car, it felt powerful, and I mean it's hard to tell as a passenger, but it did actually, for me, it felt like it had more pull than mine. Now maybe that's because in a Carrera 4. There's push and pull, I guess. You know what I mean? Because it's kicking in from the front as well as the back. Maybe that's what I was feeling, but I also think it was a lot more powerful, and it should be as well because it is the S, and the S does have noticeable more power than a base Carrera.
Yeah, I mean, we had to be a bit careful when we were out because it was raining quite hard. But
correct.
Which, that said, it was grippy still, even in that wet. I have to admit, up front, and I'll be honest, I was seduced by the wide body. It's. I'm honest enough to admit I'm superficial in that.
Yeah,
respect,
no, the wide body. I mean, I've mentioned this before, but I remember in a suburb in Sydney called Paddington, which people from Australia will know what that is, and it has very narrow back streets. And I remember in 2006 or 2007, I was walking in the streets, and then it came past a 997, I think it was a 0.2 actually. I think it must have been when the 0.2s. No, it was 0.1. It was a 0.1. And I just remember seeing it in those streets and thinking that is just so wide. Like, compared to even the 996, it just seems so wide and so it was just a beautiful car. It really was a beautiful car.
And it's interesting when friends see it, or come to stay or, whatever, and they go, that's the first thing they pick up on.
No, I noticed it getting into your car after, that familiar thing, walking into the car or going to the passenger seat or driver's seat. You notice how much wider it is. It is noticeable. And also, like I said to you when we were driving, when you're looking out that rear vision mirror.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's such a familiar view, but then looking at your rear haunches and it's so much wider. Like it's insane how much wider they are. It looks fantastic. It really does.
So I obviously had concerns about having a four-wheel drive vehicle when I hadn't really wanted to get one originally. But, when you realise, of course, that the power isn't completely... It's not a 50-50 split all the time. It's predominantly still to the rear.
Yes.
So, okay, there's a little bit of weight up front. Steve's been through all of this nonsense.
Yeah, there's more weight, yeah.
But if you've got to come back to the original guidance I set for myself, it's a training Porsche.
Yeah,
it was just going to be whatever it was going to be. Yeah,
and we'll get into that, what you're going to get next, because I think what you're going to get next is pretty exciting if you actually follow through with that.
Yeah, it's Nick Murray's 928, isn't it?
So I think that's pretty exciting. All right, so you drive out of the dealer. When was the first time? So when was the first time you went for a proper drive and realised how much I guess we have to say love it, how much you actually love the car? Do you remember that point in time?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably two occasions. One's quite meaningful, and the other one was totally superficial and a cliche. I mean, I'm lucky I live down in a rural area, and I did quite a long drive down the rural road, beautiful rural roads we have down our way, to see some friends. And just there's a very good road. It's not one of my favourite roads, by the way. I've got a list of those here, but it's a good road though. And just realising that this thing could corner. This thing was built for cornering and powering through corners. And the noise, if you just get it in the right gear to corner, it is just a joy.
Yeah, I agree. That's my first impression, and I probably have mentioned it as well. Going to the Royal National Park in Sydney, which is down south in Sydney, and they're very twisty roads. Not so narrow, but they're very twisty. Some hairpins in there as well, which you have to, because it's going up and down a mountain, going down to the water towards Wollongong in New South Wales. And the first thing I noticed is, wow, this car really knows how to corner, and how fast you can take a corner, how fast you can go into that corner. And, that braking before the corner and letting the car take you around the corner, and that feeling, That feeling is like nothing else. And I think until you own a 911, you won't understand it. You won't understand it as a passenger, but once you drive it and you do that, and then like you said, the sound. And when I first got my car, the sound was, your car's much better because it has the PSE, and the PSE sounds fantastic. Mine just had the standard Carrera exhaust, which was pretty flat.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd oil on the flames of the .1 versus .2 noise issue.
And the .1 and the .1 PSE obviously sounds a lot better than the .2, right?
So they say.
But I do remember the time, like I said, when I had my Fister, it fitted, and I did the same road, and the difference, that experience was just so much better. You know what I mean? Like with the sound of the exhaust. And I think anyone buying a 911, if it doesn't have the PSE like yours, you have to get an exhaust mod. Even though I'm not 100% keen on some of the exhaust mods that some people are doing at the moment on 911s. I think they just don't sound right. But that's another story.
I think this is one of the issues where on the whole, you've got to trust Porsche with it, I think.
Yes. I'm not a big fan of the Soul exhaust system. I know they're very popular and I know people love them, but I think the sound, to me, it just doesn't sound. And I know James at Auto Amateur did it, and I just to me the sound it loses some of the essence of the Porsche sound. It doesn't sound right.
I mean, I saw the pictures of the manifolds he's just put on. I mean, they look beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful pieces of engineering, but I'm sort of Mr. OEM on this one to a certain extent. I kind of trust Porsche with it. Yeah, no, I
priced the sports PSC to get fitted aftermarket, and it was way too expensive. That's why I went with the Fister option. It was way too expensive to get fitted and quite complicated because of the switchable exhaust.
Yeah.
So speaking of roads, in the UK, actually you've got favorite roads that are not in the UK, don't you? Because you've driven a lot in Germany, so you actually know better roads.
Yeah. And the Dolomites, and all of that.
So maybe just tell people a couple of, because you got me onto those Curves books, because I bought two now.
Yeah.
I bought the Italian one the other day as well.
Oh,
because
that's it.
And the photography in those books is just so you just want to be on that road. It's just amazing.
I've been in those roads winter and summer, and they're delightful for different reasons. But particularly the Dolomites, that Austrian region, that South Germany area, it is just wonderful.
I saw a video on YouTube the other day. I think it was Stelvio Pass, whatever it is. And the person was complaining about it. I think it was a video. Because of the cyclists, because it's like very difficult to, there's so many cyclists on that road too. So I guess it's picking the right time of the year and the right time of day to be on that road to actually enjoy it. Is there a lot of cyclists when you've been on these roads?
I lived in the Dolomites for quite a while. The summer it's very. So I think if you're going to go and do these trips and you really want to do it well, you've got to go May, early June at the latest, and then September, early October. But autumn comes pretty quick up there. It changes very, very quickly. So you're going to get a lot of rain and stuff. So all that glorious photography, you might have a few grim days actually. But that would be my ideal sweet spot for going. That's July, August. Forget it.
Right. So that's the ideal place.
Yeah, in terms of overseas, I think they're great. That's the timing you need to go. And as you know, we're planning it for next year because we had to bin it this year. Yeah, because of COVID. But you've done the roads in Scotland as well, though, right? Have you? I lived up there as a student.
Oh, right. So you haven't.
So I only remember it as a student and driving them in crappy cars. But it is fantastic, and I've got the Curve Scotland. Now we were planning on doing it this month, September. But,
because Scotland and Wales are supposed to be quite fantastic, aren't they?
So again, Wales was our fallback. We were going to do a long weekend in Wales if Scotland didn't work out. It just doesn't feel right doing it at the moment.
No, I don't think you can do it now. Even though it seems,
I just don't think you could enjoy it. You could do it, but for us, it's not just the driving; it's the cultural self-indulgence as well. Staying in nice places with good people with you on the trip, and and having good food, and when you work hard, these are serious downtime operations, and you want to really, really enjoy it. And if you happen to faff around, worrying about rules and
You can't do it. You can't do it and enjoy it properly at the moment. It's best just to delay it, I think. And it's only a year, I guess, isn't it? It's not that long. It goes.
Well,
pretty quickly.
I mean, we have no control over it. Let's see what next year brings. But I mean, we've got a plan. Let's try and make the plan work for next year, and that's all you can do. Do you want to talk about the roads? I mean,
what else?
A couple of top tips in the UK. I think.
Okay. Give us your top tips. Top tips in the UK.
Right, there is in the north of England. For those that know, in North Yorkshire, there is a road from Hutton-le-Hole north up to basically Middlesbrough, over the North Yorkshire moors. Basically, you turn off the A170 and go north.
Right.
That road over the North Yorkshire moors is absolutely fantastic.
Okay.
So those that know, they'll know. There'll be comments, I'm sure.
That's the tip.
And then there's a very good road in the south of England. Some people may know it. It's the B4000 from Newbury area up to sort of the A34 through Lambourne.
Right.
That road, absolutely phenomenal.
Right.
You want to find a nice quiet summer's evening.
Yep.
Absolutely brilliant. And then those roads down near Goodwood, where we went, obviously for the dry.
Yeah,
the A24, the A272 down towards Goodwood through Petworth, and that's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it's a lovely spot down there. It really is a lovely spot. It's a place where you want to take a 911, that's for sure.
And you also bump into quite a lot of other cars around there, which is quite
well.
nice.
That day we saw so many 911s. We saw so many 997s that day, which I was surprised.
And a Carrera GT.
And a Carrera GT, like flying in the rain when the rain started. Crazy people with their, whatever it is, £1 million or whatever it costs for a Carrera GT. Something ridiculous like that.
But they were just going out for their Sunday lunch. So it's just another day in Sussex, isn't it?
Yeah, that's its daily run. That's the GT's daily run. It's 20 miles, 30 miles every Sunday. It's a passion, that's for sure. All right, so what have you... Let's talk about things you've done to your car, because... a lot of the videos I've done, a lot of podcasts, we've talked about accessories we've added, and I know you've added similar things. So recently, what have you added to your car, to your 911?
I mean, it's a real minefield, isn't it, this area?
It is.
Because...
I want to state, though, you haven't added any carbon. That's the most important thing.
Carbon doesn't do anything for me. But,
you hear that, Steve? Carbon does nothing for Nick, Steve.
There's half of you that just wants to keep the car OEM. There's that. Porsche built it at the factory. That was the spec. You want to leave it. But the problem with the 997 is that there's a few areas where it is lacking, and particularly on the technology side. But at the same time, whatever you do, you want to keep it true to 2006 when it was built. So it's interesting. Between saying I was going to buy it and picking it up, I told them to put cruise control on it because it didn't have cruise control from factory.
Oh, okay. Can that be added, can it?
Yeah, it can, yeah.
It's
not that expensive.
Porsche part?
Yeah.
It's just programming, is it?
It's a stick and programming, and drill a hole in the steering column.
I've never used my cruise control on my 911. It has it, but I've never used it.
It's quite handy here in the UK for the sort of motorway stuff. And my feeling was that whilst I probably wouldn't use it very much, if you're sort of just doing those transit journeys across France or Germany, and you just sat on the Autobahn or Autostrada or Autoroute, you just don't want your foot stuck on the throttle, do you, really? You just want to dial it into whatever the speed is and sit back and listen to the orchestra behind you.
Yeah, I used it when I had my Audi all the time. I used to use it all the time in the event, but I'm pretty sure my car has it. It does have it. I haven't actually used it.
So, I mean, the drive on Saturday when the motorway sections, I just stuck it on cruise control.
Yeah.
So I had that done, and then I had the Mobridge Bluetooth thingy done to the PCM.
That's something I'm interested in, actually, because I'm like you. I don't like the car to look non-OEM, and people are going, "What are you talking about?" Because you've got wheels that aren't OEM color, and my wheels are actually OEM color, and I've got a stripe on the side. But inside, I've never wanted to change over the PCM. You know what I mean? And Steve did his in his GT3, and his looks good, and he's got CarPlay, and it all works very well. But for me, I just wanted to keep it as it was. As ugly as some people think it is, I wanted to keep it as it was. But I was thinking about doing that mode bridge, which I mentioned to you, last time when we chatted. And you said it works pretty well, yeah?
Yeah, I'd say it works on the whole. It's pretty good. It's not cheap. You've got to, and interesting, I didn't really use it much for the first 6 months because I was too busy enjoying the engine. I only really use it, I'll be honest, I only really use this on those sort of motorway journey type things, really.
Right.
I want to listen to some podcasts or whatever, or some music, because it's quite good now. You've got Tidal, you can use Tidal on the move. So, but I'll be honest, when I'm driving locally, I never have it on.
See, I was going to get it fitted, and there's a guy in Sydney that does it, who Steve is actually a friend with. I think in Australia, I think it's about 1,000 plus installation or something, 1,000 Aussie plus installation, or it's 1,000 fitted, something like that.
Yeah,
but I primarily wanted it, and I told you this, I just wanted it, I was really about the telephone side of it. I don't have a problem with the CD changer in my car, and I know when you put the mode bridge in, I think you have to skip the CD changer because the mode bridge uses the CD changer or something.
Yeah,
And that was only because and I said this to you, the SIM card slot, that little SIM card slot in the PCM with the telephone module that my car has, I was using up until they cut off 2G. So unfortunately,
I didn't realise that in Australia. Done that, but
So in Australia, there's no 2G for the listeners out there, and that little SIM card slot, I just got a prepaid SIM, used to stick it in, and it worked so good. Like the sound from the microphone, the inbuilt Porsche telephone kit was fantastic. And then all of a sudden, Australia discontinued 2G. You can't get 2G chips, so there's nothing you can do about that SIM card slot anymore. You can't use it. So
well, I don't use my phone in the car, so
yeah, you said that
problem out. Yeah,
well, you just don't take any calls.
No, it's not. It's not. What can be more important, Michael, than driving your 911?
Exactly. You're concentrating because you're going so fast. You don't want to be doing the phone as well,
it's not
right?
just that. What phone call could be more important than the intimate experience of driving your car?
What about if your mother calls you when you're driving? You don't want to take the call?
No. It's not. It's a distraction, isn't it?
Yeah. So the mode bridge is pretty good. I know a lot of people, have forums and I know a lot of people have fitted the mode bridge, and a lot of people have fitted the other one, Denison, isn't it? Denison.
There's the Denison. I think the mode bridge is the record. I would say the mode bridge has got the edge.
Mode bridge seems to be the one of choice. It seems to be the one of choice.
It's not just about the way it's fitted. I think it's personally been a bit of a music thing. I think it's got a better DAC in it than the Denison. Someone out there's probably going to tell us it's the same thing.
Probably. No, someone's going to tell us that the one on Amazon, and I know there's one on Amazon, that one that you can fit, and I can't remember the name of it, because I remember when I was talking about mode bridge a couple of years ago, people were like, keep telling me, get the one from Amazon, it's only this much money. But I think that's got a lot of issues as well. But I know people do fit it on Renlist, and I can't think of the name. I think it's FM something. It's called FM something. I should remember the name because I got in trouble for not remembering names of things, so I should remember the names.
Don't worry, people will keep you straight in the comments. They do.
So what else? What else, Nick? So the mode bridge, the cruise control. What are the significant ones? Not all of them. What's the significant one? I know recently you did something that I'm going to do, which you spent a lot of time preparing.
So you don't want me to talk about the new volume buttons on the PCM unit then?
Oh yeah, you can talk about those. No, I think that's these are the little things though. These are, your air conditioning thing.
Yeah.
Well, your air conditioning things were wrecked when you bought the car. They were reconditioned already.
So when I looked at the car, the guy who runs the place says it's typical on these 997s. They're all the same. He says we've got some artisan in Wales. Right. Who reconditions them. So when I came to pick up the car, it was all looked brand new again.
Oh, that's good.
But then these two, the volume button and the navigation button on the right,
yes,
the two circular ones, they made them look worse, of course, because they were all tatty. So yeah, I just bought some new ones.
That's a cheap fix though, those buttons. My controls are actually okay, those two dials. My air conditioning was shot and it was coloured in with black texture, and it distressed me so much when I picked up the car. I actually didn't notice it when I was looking at the car. I don't know how I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it, and then I picked up the car and I noticed it, and it just bugged me so much I just bought another air conditioning unit. So
anyway, so buttons done. That's good. They catch the eye.
Yep.
I did the stainless steel sills, Michael.
Which look fantastic. I have to say they look really, really good.
And what's weird is that it doesn't matter how many times I photograph them and what camera I use, you just can't capture how great they look.
Yeah, I know. I tried to take a photo that day just with my iPhone and it didn't work.
No.
They look really good. They're a brushed sort of finish, the Sills. I mean, people who have them know what they are, but they're a brush finish. You can get them for 997s. You just buy them from whatever parts place, Design 911, Suncoast. And it's kind of white, the logo, isn't it? It's white underneath, or it's the quality.
It's a contrasted polish.
Yeah.
Insert. It's very, very well done.
No, they look like quality.
It feels German. It's solid.
Yeah, because I know other companies do them. Renline do them. Who else did I see them? There's other companies making them, but I think you want to buy the OEM. If you may as well just spend a bit of extra money. They're not that expensive. They're 300 quid or something here, I think.
I mean, okay, you've got to be careful what you say here, but I didn't think when the invoice came through, I went, whoa. I mean, it's not like the sun visor debate, is it?
No.
Where you go, wow. But I just thought, I got them. They were heavy. They were considered really beautifully built. And when they were fitted, I didn't go, oh,
But your black ones were okay, weren't they? There was nothing wrong with them. They weren't damaged in any way, or
no, they just didn't look the part.
See, my driver's side one has some kind of, I mean, I put stuff on it, some expensive stuff that I bought that make it look more matte, but it's kind of all like sort of mottled marked. I don't know if it's from water or something's been spilt on it, so it always bugs me. So I could just change it for the same, but I think if you're going to have to take them off and you're going to have to go through that effort that you did to get all the glue off, that both you and Steve have told me how, and James as well have told me how difficult that is. I think you want to do it for something that's an improvement, not the same. So I think it's worth it, that's for sure.
And they look beautiful. So thank you. I'm glad you think so anyway.
Yeah, and then you're also getting a lot of the leather parts done from Design LS.
I had the leather assessment done by Michael Bath. He gave me a personal leather breakdown. So I've had the centre console done already. That was sort of a test already. The thing was, the one that was in wasn't bad, but it's so boring. The one that's
the console lead we're talking about. The console lead,
And I'd seen on YouTube before we'd met your video, and I thought I'm going to get one of those. And then when I looked at the price, I thought, oh my god, because they're like the sun visors. They're just outrageous price. Yeah,
the console's a bit crazy.
So you pointed me towards the Artisan Linus.
Yeah.
And I thought, and he quoted a price, and I thought, well, that isn't too bad actually. I'll give it a go.
No, I think
so. I did it, and I thought it was extremely good, and the quality is fantastic.
It is, and anyone in the UK that wants leather parts done for their, and I've had a couple of people ask me actually, and I always worry about pushing more and more people on. I think the prices are going to go up.
Well, it's not just that. I don't want his pipeline getting clogged.
Yeah.
I've got stuff in there at the moment.
I'm still waiting for a tracking number to see if my parcel was actually shipped, so I don't know what's happening there. But the product that's made is really, really good.
It is.
If you're doing things like steering wheels, etc., like that, I mean, the steering wheel prices through Design LS is so cheap.
Are we going to have the steering wheel debate today? Are we going to go there?
Well, the podcast. I mean, this podcast is going to come out. Actually, this podcast is actually going to come out next. This is going to be put live next Tuesday. Nick, this is going to be on. This is Tuesday's episode. So before that episode, there will be the episode with Steve. So most people would have already heard it already. So on that point in that podcast, you would have heard Steve and I talk about the steering wheel debate again, because he's seeded this idea in my head about the steering wheel. So, the idea of just keeping my triangle wheel but getting it covered in
I can't see the point in doing that because it's the wrong steering wheel already.
Yeah, and not having to change the airbag. And he's saying I should do it in dark grey Alcantara with the centre marker as per the. Huh?
I think you're throwing good money after bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Just go all the way. Just get the.
I think if you're going to do it, put the right steering wheel on. Yeah.
Right.
I know, that's just my personal opinion. But.
Yeah, because in Australia there's a cheap wheel for like $300 Australian dollars, which is what, £150, which is very cheap. Yeah. Very cheap.
That's a gift if you can get it. It's getting hold of the donor part
That's the triangle wheel, though. They have a triangle wheel. Triangle wheel, not multifunction. See, my wheel's multifunction. They have a triangle wheel multifunction, and he has a couple of them. It's the guy that I actually bought. I actually bought a leather part from him. I bought the center speaker on my dash.
That's right.
It was out of a GT3. It was a wrecked GT3, and Steve bought a couple of parts from him, I think, or he was going to buy something from him. So I bought that part. It was only like, $90. So what, 45, 50 pounds? It was cheap.
Yeah.
And he also has the wheels, so that's why I was thinking about it. But I'm not decided upon it. I'm like you. I feel like if you're going to do it, I have to go all the way. But then you got to pay. You got to pay for the airbag. It's a major expense.
Yeah, and even a donor wheel is, there's some silly money out there. I mean, I know you get something for the old wheel, but yeah.
Okay, so what else? Anything else you've added?
I'll go down the list. Well, we've got the stencils.
So you've done all the leather parts. You're doing the leather parts.
Yeah, I vainly put a fire extinguisher under my seat.
Ah, that's right, your fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
Tell people about that, because maybe there's people out there, I think, who, it's not... So you got the Renline one, right? The Renline mount.
I hadn't planned to do it. My car was in for a service during lockdown. Well, my car went in for its annual service the week before lockdown, and then it just got stuck in there.
Right.
And why, I can't remember how, but one of my ratchet nuts, mounting nuts, fell off while I was doing some work on the car before it went in. And it ended up under the seat, rattling around. So I said to the Andy, who does the cars down where we are, I said, look, while the car's in, because it was stuck there, can you take the front seat out and find this bolt? He said, yeah, no problem. And then I rang him back the next day because, of course, this was going on for weeks at this point. I said, if you're going to take the seat out, I'm going to pay you to do that. I said, why don't you just put one of these Renline mounting plates on? Because you're getting seriously bored now in the lockdown and you're just thinking of things to do with the car.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, you can put it on. So he did. He put it on, and then it came back after the service in May. I was in there for nearly 2 months.
Right.
And then... I bought the rest of it. But it's quite an expensive job, to be fair. But it is quality.
How much was the Renline mount? Just
the mount that just mounts to the chair itself is about just over £100, I think. The actual thing that
the container
the container that wraps around your fire extinguisher and then bolts onto the mounting plate, that is quite pricey. But it is a lovely piece of engineering with ceramic ball bearings in the locking joints and things like that. It's aircraft grade, It's sort of £300. Yeah,
it's £300. Yeah. Because I remember when I was looking at recently the prices for the OEM version, the plastic version, and that was when you get all the little parts. Because there was another guy on Instagram that gave me the list of the parts when I asked him about his the Carrera white guy in Germany. And it was, I think it was close to 360, 370 pounds just for the Porsche plastic one. So when you think the Renline one is like the aluminium, and like you said, it is quite a beautiful piece of work, you know what I mean, when you see it fitted.
This is one where I think Porsche got it wrong. It's not quite up to snuff for the money, I think.
But I think if someone's looking to fit a fire extinguisher into their 997 or I guess any Porsche, I guess it just hooks underneath the seat, right? It goes into the mounts underneath the seat.
It does. It's very cleverly done. And then the mounting thing for the actual extinguisher, that bolts on to... Well, there's a plate that mounts onto the other plate, and then the quick release thing pulls the whole thing out with the rings attached.
Yep.
The only bit of advice I really give to you can't... it might sound obvious to some people, but you can't post fire extinguishers around the world.
Correct.
So a lot of these things are advertised with these really cool-looking Halden fire extinguishers from the States. They look great, works of art. You can't get them in the UK. And the other problem is that these mounts have a very, very, and the tolerances are very, very tight. It is literally 3-inch diameter. Nothing more, nothing less. And I only found one place in the UK where you could get a 3-inch diameter, 2-litre fire extinguisher that would do the job.
Yeah.
They're a very good company, and they're not too bad. It's about £100 for the fire extinguisher.
Right.
It's a great fire extinguisher, but you're talking about a choice of one here.
Yeah, and then there's the one that the guy told me on Instagram, the Gloria brand, which he reckons was the brand that Porsche used to use, which is available in Germany. I know it's not available in Australia. I don't know whether it's available in the UK. And I think there's
is it 3-inch diameter? Will it go in there?
It fits the plastic mount because he had it in the plastic mount.
Yeah,
I forget which one. I forget what it was. Powder 1 kilo or 2 kilos. I can't remember what size it was.
But I suspect it won't fit that Renline one.
It won't fit the Renline one, right? But it fits. Yeah, this is for the Porsche plastic. Porsche plastic one. But that I looked for Australia and it wasn't available in Australia. That brand. So it's obviously a European, maybe European American thing or European only. What else? Fire extinguisher. That was the big one.
And leather. There's more leather. I came away from the Michael Barth assessment feeling pretty small on the leather front. So even though I had a full leather interior,
but your car still has the advantage because you have got the leather dash, and the leather dashboard is a very expensive aftermarket thing to do, and you can do it. I mean, Steve did his on his 993, and he did that through more of a family friend, so it didn't cost as much. But there's a guy in Sydney that does it as well, but I know it would be very, very expensive. And that's a great thing to have, I think. That leather option in a 997, if you find one with that leather option, if you're looking for a 997, I think is a great one to have. The leather dash and the leather doors and the leather center console, the full console, is actually really, really worth it. Because other things you can add on, like you've been doing. You can add on the leather backrests, you can add on the leather sun visors, you can do all those little things.
So the rear seat stoppers, they're in at the moment. So
the rear seat stoppers, I reckon, are one of the most important things because it's good to have your back seats down and you see that bit of stitch.
Yeah,
it looks very cool.
It catches the eye.
It does. It looks really cool. It looks really, really cool.
And then we've got the what else have we got on the list? Sun visors. Alcantara, we decided on the day in the end, didn't we?
Yeah. So you're getting the Alcantara Sun Visors.
Sills are going to get done. Sports Chrono.
And the Sports Chrono covered in leather. I don't think that was ever... Like the sills, the leather inner door sills, which is...
the sills are going to be done as well.
Yeah, the leather inner door sills, the visors, and
the sunroof cover like yours, which is beautiful.
Yeah, and I think most of these were offered from options from Porsche originally. There were actually options for a 997. I don't know about the sunroof. The sunroof cover I don't think was, but the inner door sills, etc., they were. The visors were. So there were certain things that were actually available when you bought the 911. So, it's not.
I think
really...
what happens is, it's interesting because you think to yourself when you got this car, because you looked at the original extras list of my car.
Yes.
And you think to yourself, why didn't they get the sun visors done? But I think what must happen, Michael, is that you've already been sweated dry by the Porsche buying process at this point.
Yeah.
And it's the final insult, isn't it? 600 quid for one sun visor.
Yeah, they're expensive.
And I think people are just going to go, no way, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
But the problem is they're very, very cheap, actually, when they feel to them.
They are, the visors, something that you're always touching, and the sunroofs around, the lights around, sunroofs around, like we said, things you're touching, you want it to be.
Yeah.
That's why
tactile.
That's why I had to do the blades on the side of my PCM, when I got those blades from LA Dismantler. And they were perfect, and they were like I think at the time, whatever it was, 100 US or something.
So what's the standard part then that's there if you don't have those? Because obviously I've got them.
Plastic. It's just
plastic.
Plastic. Yeah, it doesn't have any stitch detail, so it's just the plastic.
What, with leatherette or just plastic?
Yeah, it's vinyl, the vinyl material. Yeah, it's just the vinyl sort of padded material. That's all it is. See, I'm very conscious of what I add because I don't have the dash and I don't have the doors. So, I've still got that stitching detail on the pulls on the doors that's still there. When it's on the lid of the console, I think works well. I mean, there is that stitching here and there. So I think now it actually looks quite good. And I think when the other things are added, it's going to even look better. I mean, for me, the main thing is the visors and the sunroof surround. The inner door sills I always wanted, and I think they look good, but you're going to appreciate them. You don't really touch them, but you just see them every time you get in the car. So I guess it's worthwhile. It is worthwhile, but that's an expensive part.
Yeah, it's another expensive one.
Yeah, that's one.
So that's that. Yeah, sun visors. So yeah, so that's hopefully we'll get all that done through the winter.
All right, sounds good. All right, what else? So what else, Nick? Where are we up to?
Planned upgrades.
Oh, yeah. Is there anything else you're going... sorry, I'm talking away from the microphone. Is there anything else that you are thinking about doing?
We discussed this obliquely when I was with you, but I got your view on it rather than mine. I'm still looking for a good number plate.
Oh, right, it's the number plate. Yeah, that's important. That's
Can't
important.
find one.
You can't find one?
So
at auction?
I've been looking. I don't want one that reflects me at all. I want one that reflects Porsche, and I'd like to get a 911 one because at least it'll transfer to another 911. The problem with getting a 997 orientated one is that it will only go with a 997. So
So you get the I don't want to say it because I think it's available in Australia. And if I say it, someone might go and check for it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you later. But there's, you can get, I forget, what has James got? 9 Elf, has he? 9 Elf. But
yeah, I've tried all that. I've looked at Elf. I've looked at Zuff for Zuffenhauer. All the cryptic, options that you could get in the UK. But
what about
there's nothing.
NEUN 11?
9, yeah.
911, no?
They're all taken.
They're all taken.
But anyway, if there's any listeners out there who either have something or, you know where to get in touch.
Yeah, I mean,
let Michael know.
Keep checking.
Michael can broker a deal for me.
I mean, I checked on the number plate site in Australia the other day, and there's actually still some really good ones available. And I checked them, and I just don't understand how someone hasn't taken it already. And I told you how much it costs in Australia to do that.
I know, I was gobsmacked. But but you've got a different system.
Yeah, different system. But I tell you what, if you've got a 911 in certain generations, there's some really key plates still available. It's tempting just to reserve it, just to have it, just in case.
They're all gone here.
I think people buy those sort of plates here more. In Australia, it's not a huge thing because they don't want to spend that much money. People who do plates which are custom but not the expensive custom. The one I have is the most expensive one to pay per year. So that's...
See, you've got that annual retainer. We don't have that. It's just what does it cost to try to buy it, and then you don't buy it. You're leasing it effectively for as long as you want. But some of the prices, honestly, Michael, they're crazy. Can't justify it. You can't justify it.
I mean, when you get into single-digit ones and double-digit ones in Australia, especially if they're numbers, lucky Chinese numbers and stuff, if they're 88 or 99 or 8 or whatever, they're not affordable. They're like Ferrari prices. So, there are plates. Yeah, they're very expensive. Their first issue, black plates are very, very expensive. Yeah. And they go to auction and they sell for crazy amounts of money. And you see a few in Sydney. There's a guy in Sydney, I think he has a Bentley, and I think he has... I forget which number it is, 2 or 1 or 8. I think it's 8, number 8.
It's literally just a number.
Yeah, which is, the really early New South Wales plates, and they're only they're like a square shape. So they're very, very expensive, very rare. So
that's really, I think that's the only thing I would want to do, in the next year. Yeah.
All right. We're coming up to an hour, believe it or not. These podcasts.
You told me 25 minutes.
I was going to be 25 minutes. So
25 minutes.
I think we might. I don't like to do them too much over an hour. I think an hour is pretty good. But I think let's just tell the listeners what you're thinking about buying next. What are you planning? What is in your mind at the moment? First thing you think of now. What do you want to have next? What 911? I mean.
Oh, it's the GT3 Touring.
GT3 Touring. So a 991.2 or a 992?
I think 992 because 991s, I think they're unobtainable. I don't think you can get one.
Yeah.
As soon as they come online, they're gone.
And would you get it in PDK or would you get it in manual?
No, manual.
Manual, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see it, actually. I mean, I guess the
What colour should I get, Michael? What colour?
I'd get the green. I'd probably be boring.
Orange?
Yeah, see, I'd probably be boring and get GT Silver. I don't know why. I probably would. It depends It depends what colours. Maybe they're going to launch. Maybe sometimes don't they bring out different colours in the second gen, or in new models? They somehow every now and again, like in the Taycan, I know they introduced a few new colours for the new model year for the 21 model.
I mean, it's interesting looking at the 992 colours at the moment. Ahead of whatever they're going to release for the GT3s, but they're not that many colours there, really, are there?
Would you get ceramic brakes or would you get steel brakes?
Steel, I think.
Steel brakes.
I don't. Yeah. I'm not sold on ceramics.
I like the spec of Magnus Walker had a video yesterday of a Carrera S in Aventurine green or whatever you call it, that green, and it had those seats. I like those seats, which are the Sportex. Is it called Sportex? It looks like checkerboard. And it had those seats. And believe it or not, it had wood trim. And it just had the wood trim with the black. And it actually
looked... It's a bit Jaguar, isn't it?
It looked good. It surprised me how good it looked with the wood trim.
I need to watch it.
The only thing that distressed me was that the centerpiece on the 992 is like that cheap Mercedes-Benz that they used to put in C-classes, that black plastic. It looks like polished black plastic. I don't know whether you can spec that, so that's maybe you have to get the carbon pack or the matte carbon pack. But I don't know. In the wood, that wasn't wood. It was still that black plastic, which looked a bit strange. It's like the same material that the Carrera T, the 991 Carrera T had. The strips on the dashboard was this shiny black plastic, which a lot of people spec'd as leather to get rid of it because it was it's not very nice. But I think that's a good choice, Nick. 992 GT3 Touring.
It's either that or...
That's big money.
It is. Should I do it on PCP, shall I?
So I think so. So I guess you're not going to keep the 997, right? You're not going to have two.
I think on those, in that deal, I'd have to throw it in.
Yeah.
The other option is to get a left hooker from the States, which is another serious option. To get a 70s 911 coupe.
I think the Touring's a good thing. I mean, I don't know whether you can find a 901 Touring at a good price, but like you said, they're pretty high, aren't they? I think when I looked at Auto Trader, there was like 2 or 3 available.
If you're going to spend that money on a second-hand one, why don't I just buy a new one?
Yeah, it's almost the same amount, isn't it?
And at least I can personalise it and do my thing with it.
Yeah, true. You can do it exactly right. And it's a keeper too. The GT3 Touring is definitely a keeper.
Yeah, they'll be burying me in that one.
Yeah, it's an understated. It's a great one.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. All right. So that's it, I think. Are we at the end? Have we covered everything you wanted to cover? Is there anything else you want to tell the listeners? And you have got that planned drive, like I think I have mentioned it briefly, but you've got the planned drive next year, which you invited me along with, even though I'm 911-less.
We'll sort that out. We've got a few months yet.
My car is becoming a bit of a concern because I can't get back to Australia due to the Australian government rejecting its citizens.
Yeah,
I
feel for you. I feel for you.
It's a crazy situation, but it is what it is. All right. Anything else?
Not really. No, we just need to find you a 911 for next year. That's all.
I think that's good. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Michael. Lovely talking to you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. Like I said, this is a PorscheCooled podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, and everywhere else. This episode is the Porsche Owner Stories. This is number 1. Nick talking about his Porsche passion and his Carrera 997 Carrera 4S. There's more of these to come. This will go up on This will go up on a Tuesday. It doesn't matter me saying that because you're going to be listening to it anyway. But thanks for listening. Bye for now.